And now it's Too Late with Alan Mosley.
Guys, welcome back for another episode of It's Too Late. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by the #1 producer in late night. It's Blake Osborne.
How's it going?
I've seen that shirt before.
Have you?
I have.
Okay. Oh, you know, I don't keep track of how many shirts I wear. I probably wear the same thing every week.
I'm giving Blake a hard time because right before we started the show, he said, "Did I wear this shirt last week? People are going to give me a hard time because I wore the shirt." So first of all, I don't think you did wear that shirt last week.
Really?
We should just pull up our
Yeah.
channel right here while we're waiting and
see how many times I've worn the same shirt. I don't know.
Yeah.
I only own like 4 shirts, so it doesn't matter.
Well,
I got like a red one, a blue one, and a black one. I think
that
that's
right
it.
there,
and
folks.
like a yellow or something.
This is exactly why you got to go to patreon.com/Alan Mosley to donate to us for doing this fine program so Blake can buy a 5th shirt.
Yeah.
If we ever take this
just
program
a
to
shirt.
5 nights a week, you're going to need at least one more shirt or we can't go on.
Yeah, and we just wear the same color shirt for the same day of the week every week. It'd be great.
Well,
That
I
would be
mean,
easy.
you know, I tend to wear this tie a lot.
Yeah, you do.
But in my defense, this is a great tie.
It is a great.
And it's my favorite color, too. So
Sure.
there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Blake, I have got something for you this week, buddy.
Oh, what do you got?
So you know how you and I have been talking about, like, our greatest episode ever was when we tried the Impossible Whopper.
Yes.
And we've been talking about we need to find some more stuff to try.
Sure.
And by the way, for you jerks at home, and you know who you are, we've had people write us say, you know, you ought to do that again. You ought to try this. Have you ever tried that? And I keep telling people, we'll give you the studio address. You ship it here. We'll try it. Whatever weird random thing you have. But we're not, like, we don't have any money.
I know.
We're not going to go, me and Blake are not going to the store before we start the show to go buy crap that we're going to end up throwing away.
Yeah.
Because you people want to see us eat it or drink it.
Yeah.
Might be an exception to the rule on this one.
Okay.
Now, there was a tweet that came out from Red Lobster that was a bunch of lobsters, and the lobster on top was like photoshopped green, and it said, "Big announcement coming soon."
Okay.
And the announcement hit the airwaves yesterday.
Okay.
Go ahead and pull this up. It's the Do-Garita.
What is that?
It's a Mountain Dew margarita. It's the Do-Garita. So their message was, it's big, it's green, and it tastes even more incredible than it looks. Introducing the new Do-Garita. Get yours today, along with all of your favorite PepsiCo drinks.
God. So what you're telling me is they just added vodka to a Mountain Dew.
So, well, it's tequila.
Tequila.
So-
Okay, there you go. So that's what I know about alcohol.
So there's people in the thread that are so first of all, there's people in the thread saying this is why America has fallen. That's one thing. But people were saying, so like, what is it? Is it literally just tequila and Mountain Dew?
Yeah.
And of course, they won't give you the recipe of whatever other stuff is in it. But it's the Do-Garita. I'm not even sure what they've lined the glass with. It looked maybe like brown sugar or something.
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know. But
Is that salsa?
I think we might have to have a Do-Garita on the program. So we'll have to look into that. But anyway, probably my favorite response was somebody had the clip of Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
He says, you know, your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they never stopped to think if they should.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying maybe the Do-Garita. Now, I think you and I talked about this before.
Yeah.
You've seen The Mandalorian, right?
Yes.
And we were talking about, when does Mandalorian season 2 come out?
It's
They
supposed to be
just
the end
dropped a
of
trailer.
October. Yeah, they did.
Did you see it?
I have not seen it yet.
You haven't seen the
seen
trailer for Mandalorian
No.
season 2. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Which, this is great, by the way. This is coming on the heels of us having just done an episode about boycotting Disney because they support communists in concentration camps.
So now I'm conflicted.
And well, so for one, I unironically had Mandalorian season 2 in my notes for today.
Okay.
Because I was like, well, but
It's
I
Mandalorian.
want to see Mandalorian season 2, and there's a trailer out.
So what do we do? I mean,
Well, I am a little bit conflicted, but this is something that I think people in our community actually have to have a conversation about. Is where do you draw the line between wanting to take a stand on something on principle,
yeah.
versus wanting to enjoy something that you want to enjoy?
Right.
And I think as it pertains to this in particular, obviously you don't pay the $30 to watch Mulan streamed to your house. You don't do that.
Right.
So they don't really recuperate their costs on Mulan.
Yeah.
But if you have Disney Plus because you want to watch Mandalorian season 2, hold on, because I know that there's people. Of course, this show is live, so I can see the live chat.
Well, it's kind of like Netflix and the whole cuties thing.
So I know that there's going to be people, there's going to be people that are going to say, "Whoa, you're being a hypocrite." But I kind of look at it the same way I look at like football.
Okay.
So I've seen a lot of people making comments like, "Oh, they've got all this SJW stuff. I don't like that. This sucks, blah, 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 blah." And other people saying, "Oh, they take money from the military and they advertise all the oorah America crap, whatever." But here's the thing. And then, of course, obviously there's the third group that are just the neckbeards who are like, "I don't like football." But here's the thing. I do like football.
Okay.
It's my favorite thing to watch is football.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not going to allow people I don't like. I'm not going to allow institutions that I think are evil to prevent me from enjoying something I like. I feel like it's like you're not having your cake and you're not eating it too.
Right.
If you don't like those institutions and you allow them to poison something that you enjoy.
Well, in the case of like the Netflix thing, I mean, you're paying the monthly subscription, and that's just downright dirty, But in the case of Disney, you're paying $30 for something that's extra, so I can kind of get around that.
Yeah. So obviously, like you brought up the Netflix thing, which we might talk about that here in a couple of weeks because we have a friend of ours. I'm not going to say it yet because we haven't scheduled it, but we have a friend of ours that actually has an interesting take on the whole cuties thing, and it might not be something everyone agrees with. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But if you are one of the people that are like, no, don't want any of that. If you want to cancel your Netflix subscription, more power to you. Yeah. I mean, who am I to say your principled stand on something is or isn't a good idea?
Right.
But all I'm saying is that if there are products I like, if there's studios I like, if there's shows I like or whatever, and they sign a deal with Netflix to have Netflix publish their content, and I want to watch their content, then yes, that puts me in a position where I would have to sign up for Netflix to watch it.
True.
And while I totally understand if you would want to cancel your subscription, whatever, I guess what I'm saying is that it's possible to make your voice heard and to tell, in this case, a company, I don't like this thing you're doing, but also but to do like other things they're doing.
Right.
Like, we were talking about football. So I love football. I love the sport and I love watching the games. Yes, there's a bunch of stuff going on around the game that's kind of silly to me. And I definitely don't like, there's no fans, so they're piping in the fake crowd noise and all this BS. I hate all that crap. But I'm not going to allow the things around the game ruin my enjoyment of the game.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say. I know that there's going to be the diehards out there that are going to say, you're just a hypocrite, blah, 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 blah. All I can say is that if all we did was just constantly make a list of everything we didn't like and every organization we didn't like, every person we didn't like, and then it's kind of like the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? Yeah. Like every single person or show or service or whatever that is in any way associated with any of those people or things we don't like, we don't support them. You can do that.
Yeah.
But you'll quickly find that there's not a lot left.
I know. Isn't that cancel culture at its finest?
It's a surprisingly small world, I guess, sometimes. And what I mean by that is that there's so many things interconnected that you can draw a dot from one thing to another thing fairly easily. Yeah. And if you personally ban from your own consumption everything you don't like and everyone who's associated with everything you don't like, then you're out of things.
You got nothing left.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like that they're forcing people to wear masks, but there's also private companies that are taking it upon themselves to institute that rule. Right. If that means I don't support any of those companies while they're doing it, then that's understandable. But if that means I don't ever support any of those companies ever again, then I'm literally running out of places to go get my groceries. I'm literally running out. So anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say to people is that it's great to have principles. I mean, we're big on that on this show.
Yeah.
It's great to take a stand and to make your voice heard, but you can also have some social nuance to how you approach things,
Right.
and not demonize everybody in comparison to one another.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just a weird little aside. I didn't have any of this in my notes, by the way. I just had Mandalorian season 2. That's all I had in my notes. The point being is I'm excited for Mandalorian season 2.
Yep.
You are too. It's going to be great.
Yep.
We'll be right back after this. If you're enjoying tonight's show, consider supporting the program by becoming a member of our Patreon. That's over at patreon.com/Alan Mosley. You don't think that they've, like, copyrighted saying the phrase, "this is the way," do you?
No, I don't think you can copyright
I don't
something
think you
like
can
that.
either. Well, good. This is
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah, this is the way.
I love that.
I do too.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about Netflix earlier. So we've actually talked about Altered Carbon on this show. We were doing a little review of Altered Carbon, and we were getting excited for season 2, which was it was pretty good. It wasn't quite as good as season 1, but it was pretty good. I hope they do a season 3. I'm not sure if they will. Hope they do. But the point being is that if I want to watch Altered Carbon and it's on Netflix, then I really don't have any choice other than to watch Altered Carbon. And while it's true that you could cancel your Netflix subscription because there's another show on Netflix you don't want, you could also just not watch that show and tell all your friends it sucks, don't watch it.
Yeah.
You can write nasty emails to Netflix, but still watch the show you do like.
Wait, isn't that Tiger thing on there too? That Tiger guy?
Well, Tiger King is, yeah.
Yeah, maybe Netflix isn't so bad. I don't know.
Whatever. Hey, Blake.
Yeah, man.
What time is it?
It's time for...
How did we get into you yelling that every week?
Meme of the week.
Conservatives, when they find out a black man that's been killed by a cop has a criminal record.
Oh, jeez.
Because I've got a golden ticket.
Well, that sucker must have deserved
Got a
it
golden
then.
twinkle in my eye. Yeah. So
hindsight is 20/20.
that image now will be burnt in your mind with a completely different meaning.
I know. Look at his face.
look how excited Charlie is that he can talk about why the cops are justified that they killed that black man.
Jeez.
I'm just kidding. That's
I know,
not
I
Charlie's not a racist. I think.
No. Who knows?
I mean, I don't know Charlie. Maybe he is, but
Was the old man his uncle or his grandpa? I can't remember.
I think it's his grandpa.
Was it grandpa? Well, that guy was a deadbeat, wasn't he?
Well, yeah. I mean, he was basically Karl Marx. He was Karl Marx who was living in their home, and then all of a sudden, when he gets some expropriated capital, he's up on his feet.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Like, there's what is it? Like a candy company or something out there that's doing the golden ticket thing. That's going around right now. It's a company out of Tampa. Is it Jelly Belly Beans or something like that? We got to find out some more information about that. But they're doing a golden ticket thing where you get the ticket, you win a candy factory. It's crazy. I got to find that.
What happened to this show?
I don't know. Just thought I'd make a comparison. It's been going around the internet.
We did the meme of the week, right?
Yeah,
I spaced out for the last few minutes. I have no idea what's going on. We better move on to the viewer mail because I've lost complete control.
No, yeah.
All right. No. Go away.
I use that response to everyone who texts me.
I know you do. I know you do. First question is from Suzanne Sherman, who writes, "Dear Alan and Blake, what is the worst flavor on earth, and why is it pumpkin spice?" I have a confession.
Yeah.
I've actually never had anything pumpkin spice flavored.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
You need to go get you some.
But I don't like pumpkin.
No, I mean, have you ever had pumpkin pie?
I don't like it.
You don't? Okay. Well, that's all right. You don't have to. That's fine.
I'm glad. I'm glad I don't have to.
No, but there is a worse flavor.
What?
I hate licorice, man.
Licorice? Okay.
That stuff's nasty.
I think a lot of people put licorice at the top because specifically because it's a popular flavor that they don't like. I'm sure there's some random obscure flavor that a lot of people wouldn't like, but it's obscure, so you wouldn't really think about it.
I mean, I don't look down on people who like licorice. I just admire them for their ability to handle that. That takes hair. You got to be a hairy person. You just bravado and strength like a bear. You have to have that like grr. I
think you're being a little R word.
Yeah.
I think you are.
No, everybody.
So Suzanne, I think that there probably are worse flavors, but I actually don't know. I've never had pumpkin spice.
Is there anything worse than licorice?
I mean, it's pretty bad.
Opinion.
Okay, so if anybody at home wants to send us something that's pumpkin spice flavored for us to try live on the air, we'll do it. Or licorice. So send us licorice and pumpkin spice, and I'll eat the pumpkin spice, and Blake will eat the licorice live on the show. He said he wants to.
That's torture.
Eric Eli writes, Dear Alan and Blake, do the Washington Rollovers have an official name yet? So he's talking about the Washington football team. Of course, they used to be the Redskins. Right. And that's just too much now for our 2020 sentimentalities.
Yeah, we can't even say that.
So they actually are going by Washington football team.
What?
That's literally what their name is for this season, is Washington football team.
Okay, that's epic. I'm cool.
No, it's retarded is what it is.
It's so stupid, it's awesome.
No, it's retarded. So the point being is that, this is my theory on this. So Dan Snyder, the owner of the Redskins, who's kind of been in a little hot water himself anyway.
Okay.
He was somebody who was really adamant about not making the change for years.
Yeah.
Which frankly, I agree. But that being neither here nor there. So I think that the league went to him and said, look, we're going to have to make this change. It's current year. We can't have a racist name. And I think that he's bitter about it. So when he said, well, screw you guys, I'll just call it Washington Football Team, and it'll just be a W.
Yeah.
I think he did that almost kind of like as an FU to the league. And now they're actually doing it. And they did it under the presumption that it'll just be a placeholder.
Uh-huh.
But then they came out with a report saying that he was saying that if it catches on, they'll just keep it Washington Football Team. So again, I think he's just doing it as a big FU. But to answer Eric's question, they're going by Washington Football Team, and that is going to be their name going into the future until they decide otherwise.
But you know what? My thing is isn't there other teams in other sports that have other names that have similar connotations, like the Indians and the Chiefs?
Of course, but of course, it's just ridiculous. So the point being is that I always liked there was an old sports article that used to be, I don't think it's around anymore. It's called the Tuesday Morning Quarterback, and he always had these awesome nicknames for every single team. And so he had a nickname for Washington because Redskins is racist.
Yeah.
So his name was the Washington Potomac Drainage Basin Indigenous Persons. And that's my favorite name. That should be on their whole thing. It should be the Potomac Drainage Basin Indigenous Persons.
Sold.
It's great. Andrew Avery writes, Dear Alan and Blake, a two-parter if you'll indulge me. Oh, God. If Tom told you he had multiple personalities, would he be speaking frankly? Capital F, frankly. And if you say no, will he be beside himself?
Oh, this hurts. Moving on.
Celeste Annis writes, Dear Alan and Blake, with songs like Strip Polka, Beer Barrel Polka, and The Lady from 29 Palms, are the Andrews sisters the real OGs?
Yes.
Well, so Blake apparently has a very strong opinion on this.
Man, polka's awesome.
Well, there you go, Celeste. Yeah. Blake says yes, and he's the music expert. He owns a music studio.
That doesn't mean I'm an expert of artists.
Yeah, he is. No, dude, I actually go out of my way to build you up for once on this damn show, and then you're like, no.
I can tell you about any piece of technology that there is in audio recording, but when it comes to like old artists, I kind of have a varied idea.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Celeste. The real answer is no, they're not the real OGs because Blake doesn't have a GD clue what he's talking about. Jonathan Carranza writes, Dear Alan and Blake, what is your favorite Facebook page? Well, it used to be the other 3%, but they like died of the Rona or something.
Wow. Yeah.
They're gone now, or they're going. I don't know what's
they got
going
zucked.
on.
Did they get zucked?
How many times at this point?
Jeez.
What's funny is I've seen a recurring theme of people messaging us saying, "Hey, I never see your content. Did you quit?" And it's because we're being throttled by social media.
Right.
And you guys have to like our page.
That's right.
Click the little note, the following button to say "see first."
Right.
If you're on Facebook.
Exactly.
And you gotta like and comment and share.
Right.
If you don't, then Facebook makes the post go away.
Exactly.
We get unpersoned.
Right.
And so that's happened to other people too. And so they've had the same problems.
Right.
So to answer Jonathan's question, I don't even know anymore. Everything I like goes away.
Yes.
I'm upset. Jeff Johnson writes, Dear Alan and Blake, which is the best of these three Mel Brooks movies? A, Spaceballs. B, Blazing Saddles. Or C, Young Frankenstein?
Ooh.
I know, that's a good one.
I just have a special place in my heart for Spaceballs, dude.
So you say
I love the
Spaceballs.
other ones, but Spaceballs is the best.
Such a normie.
For me.
Such a normie.
Nah.
So I'm actually gonna take a controversial pick right here.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Young Frankenstein.
Why? It's good. It's really good. It's funny as all get out, but it's I don't know. I don't know.
I like how I
It's a
express
matter of
my
opinion.
preference, and it's why? Ugh.
Sorry, that's the
Why?
German in me.
Something in you. R word being R word. So my favorite of those three is Young Frankenstein. I think that they're all great. I mean, they're iconic for different reasons. They're all iconic for different reasons. They all have very famous one-liners and scenes that everyone references. But I think that most normies would pick Spaceballs.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of big Mel Brooks fans would pick, or other normies would pick Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to say Young Frankenstein. So let me know in the comments why I'm wrong, but try to be a little bit more eloquent than why.
Yeah.
Mary Lynn Wilimowski of
Yes?
David and Mary Liberty
Yeah.
Late Night say, who do you like better, Pat Sajak or Alex Trebek?
Ooh.
What do you think, Blake?
Pat Sajak. Alex Trebek is just too I don't know, he seems like an okay dude. It's kind of pompous. I don't know. That's my opinion.
See, I think that most people would say the opposite of what you
Really?
just said. I think most people would say Pat Sajak comes off as a bit grating and pompous, and Alex Trebek is more down to earth.
I guess it just depends on who you grew up watching more.
I'm shocked Alex Trebek is still alive at this point.
Yeah, he's had it rough lately.
He's got like stage 27 cancer.
Yeah.
So, but he's apparently still making it.
Maybe it's just a robot. I don't know.
He might just be a robot.
He might be a droid.
So believe it or not, I'm actually going to say Pat Sajak.
Okay.
So Pat Sajak used to live in the Middle Tennessee area because he used to work with Channel 4 News in Nashville.
I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's not originally from here, but he lived
He has
here for
ties.
some time.
That's good.
So there you go. So
There you go.
we're going to root for the hometown
That's
boy and
right.
say Pat Sajak.
That's right.
Rachel Watson Kennerly asked, Dear Alan and Blake, how did I wind up as a top fan of this page that Facebook hides from me? So this is exactly my damn point right here, is that I get messages from people every week saying, when are you going to do your next episode? So first of all, guys, we literally do a show every week.
Wednesday.
We
That's
don't
right.
miss weeks.
We don't.
And they literally come out every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern time.
That's correct.
And there's a live premiere of when the episode drops on Facebook.com,
Yes.
Alan Mosley TV, on Twitter, Alan Mosley TV, and YouTube, Alan Mosley TV.
And Parler.
Well, we're on Parler.
Yeah.
But the Parler's just going to be linking to the YouTube.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Right, how about you let me take care of this, Blake?
Sure.
How about that? Because you've never posted a single one of the things we've done. I'm the one posting it. The reason why you guys don't see it is because Blake doesn't even share the show. Blake doesn't even watch the show.
I do
watch it.
I was there last week.
So anyway, I'm serious. Seriously though, when I say this, I get messages every single week from people saying, "When's your next episode coming?" I hadn't seen it. And I'm like, so first of all, like, share, comment, click the button to say "see" first, so you don't in notifications, so you don't miss when we do something. Second of all, it's every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. It literally always is. I don't even know why we do our advertisements and stuff. I do them, and people watch the show, and then after the show's over, they say, "So where can I see this again?" Like, David Wilimowski Jr.
Yes.
of Liberty Late Night writes,
course.
Dear Alan and Blake, why am I just now seeing this? This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Come on.
Now, I know that they know better because they do a show, so they know what it's like.
Yes.
But you guys are killing me. Last one, Ryan Seifert. By the way, Ryan is one of our loyal viewers, but he's been gone for a few weeks because he got zucked.
Ooh.
So, Ryan, let us know, by the way, in the comments if you're watching, what you did. What did you do?
What did you do?
Ryan writes, Dear Alan and Blake, what percentage of the far-right virtue signaling cancel culture secretly watch sports in shame? Okay, so I'm going to give you a serious answer to that question, not a funny one. The people who already weren't sports watchers, like the people who are on social media saying, cancel football or whatever, those people probably don't watch football to begin with.
Right.
So I don't really care what they think, and they're being loud about their opinion, but they're not really football fans, so what difference? If they weren't going to watch, then who cares? Then don't watch. It's fine. Yeah. But of the people who are loyal sports fans, who then kind of jump on that bandwagon of, you should be doing more for social justice, or I don't like this or that, or whatever. Or the opposite, the one saying, well, I'm not going to watch it until they salute my flag. They're watching. Dude, they're still watching. Yeah. Shut up.
Yeah.
They're still watching. They're still watching. So that's the thing, is that, so to answer your question, the people who normally would watch and then say they won't are totally still watching in shame, 100%. And the people who normally wouldn't watch are not watching.
Right.
So really, all the stuff around the game doesn't affect that at all.
Right.
I'm not saying that the numbers don't go up and down. Yes, I would prefer certain things to be a certain way, of course. But I do still watch the games. I'll tell you, if I need to put it on mute, I put it on mute.
Yeah.
I really do. If I need to avoid the pre and the post game, I do that too. But I still watch the game.
Right.
You guys, you're still watching. Tell you what, the only game I didn't watch this past week was the Cowboys game. It's a good thing I didn't, because I just don't need blood pressure issues. The Titans won, though.
Yeah.
So how about that?
I heard.
They suck. They were terrible and should have lost, but they won.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty Titan-y.
And it was an away game, wasn't it?
But that doesn't even matter anymore, but most places don't have any fans in the stands.
That's
so
true.
Who even cares if it's a home or an away game? We're not doing sports this week. What are we talking about right now? We're not doing sports this week.
I don't know.
God, we're like 7 minutes over.
It's all fun. I think you should go to a commercial break.
I think we should take another moment.
Okay.
Let's have a quiet moment, I think.
Good.
All right, we can take a commercial break. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. Email us at alan@funnybroke.com. So, what we have for this week in our first news segment is something that was going around on Twitter, and it was in reference to an article from the Financial Times talking about what happens if Trump doesn't concede. Talking about if he loses the presidential election in November and then refuses to concede. Okay. So go ahead and pull up that article right there. What happens if Trump loses but refuses to concede? Now, I'm going to go on a rant really quick. You know me, I'm really quick about my rants. I was planning on using that very article right there to reference our conversation today.
Okay.
And now I can't pull up the article because they literally threw it behind a paywall in the 24 hours it took me to come down to the studio and do the show. So I'm actually having to get notes from another site in reference to that article.
Nice.
It is current year, folks.
Yeah, no.
It is 2020. How dare you put your crap behind a paywall? No, that just guarantees that no one will read it.
Yeah.
So here I am, someone who would have showcased this article on the show and talked about this is who it's from, and here's the authors, and here's what they said, and now we're not going to do that.
Right.
So go to euthanasia.com/paywall to get the information you need.
There you go.
Yeah. So anyway, what happens if Trump loses the election but doesn't concede? Now, you're going to see where I'm going with this in a second. Everyone on Twitter is talking about Trump's going to try to steal the election. Trump is going to create some sort of uncomfortable military coup situation. Trump refuses to concede. The Financial Times takes a sober look at the tricks Trump and the GOP could pull to keep him in power if he loses the election. 538 offers a similar analysis. With a vast patchwork of state legislators, electors, vote count shenanigans, congressional maneuvers, and courtroom fights to wage, it could go on for months and even see Nancy Pelosi installed as a caretaker president after Trump's current term ends. The grim reality, though, is if it gets to that point, awful things will already be happening in the streets. This is from the Financial Times. Such uncertainty amid high expectations for victory on either side risks civil unrest that increases pressure from one side to concede, officials fear. It could also pit the military against civilians who have taken to the streets. Quote, leaders are already thinking through the potential for unrest, said a former senior military official or officer in touch with top Pentagon officials. Pentagon leadership has insisted the U.S. military has no role to play in any election dispute and has openly discouraged Mr. Trump from invoking the 1807 Insurrection Act, which would give him the authority to deploy troops to quell any civil unrest. I'm going to go ahead and finish this last little bit, and then we're going to talk about it. Biden has to either win enough electors to obviate the possibility of the candidates sharing a tipping point state, or win by enough votes in such states to make a slim electoral college advantage unassailable. The Too Long Didn't Read of this and of the other articles like it. If Biden doesn't go to bed in the early hours of November 4th, a clear Florida worth of called electoral votes ahead of Trump, Trump can probably engineer the war he wants. This even if it's obvious Biden will still prevail after mail-in votes are counted. I want to point out a couple of things in that analysis.
Okay.
The first one is that do you notice how completely one-way slanted it is?
Yeah.
The entire article is, it could be a close election. It could come down to the waning hours. It could come down to mail-in votes. But all of that is all presumed Trump will lose and he may cause trouble.
Right.
What about if Biden loses?
Yeah.
Will it be the same way?
Right.
So if you look at a lot of the unrest that's going on in the country right now, and yes, it is true that there's a lot of protests going on related to police brutality. Police brutality as a whole, specific murders. If you're talking about George Floyd, you're talking about Breonna Taylor, which we'll actually have a little Breonna Taylor update in the finale today. That's all well and good. Look, I'm on board. All cops are bastards. I say it all the time. I've minced no words about that on this program. I want to abolish the state. So they're the enforcement wing of the state. It shouldn't be that hard for you to connect the dots where I stand on that. But the point being is I totally get protesting police brutality and murders committed by police in various cities. But let's be honest with ourselves here. We know that a whole lot of the people out in the streets that are just walking through parking lots with baseball bats, just smashing every windshield, that are looting and burning down small businesses. Oftentimes, by the way, looting and burning down small businesses in minority neighborhoods, which is totally, it's counterproductive no matter where they burn down and loot. But it's really counterproductive to burn down and loot minority neighborhoods, which totally is happening all across the country. And then obviously the violence factor. Obviously there being violence, and we've seen protester on protester violence, and we talked about Garrett Foster on this program. We've talked about others. So you're just absolutely being intellectually dishonest if you don't point out those things and say there are a lot of very bad actors mixed into this movement, if you want to call it that. And these people are not Trump voters. I hate Trump. I want both of them to lose. I think voting is aggression. I'm for no political candidate, but I feel the need to point out that a lot of the people involved in the rioting and the looting specifically, and I'm differentiating, by the way, that from protesting. Not protesting, rioting and looting. These people are not walking around wearing MAGA hats. Hate to tell you. They're not.
Nope.
So this idea that then if Trump loses the election, then he will manufacture civil unrest when there already is civil unrest, and it's largely being led by people who don't support Trump. That's just being intellectually dishonest. It just is. So let's flip the script on that. So I heard that. I've read this article. I heard the analysis. Fine. Let's do the exact same article, but replace Biden everywhere where it says Trump. Will a Biden loss mean that there will be massive civil unrest the country over? Will a Biden loss, regardless of mail-in ballots, mean that that you're going to see these things increase, and that it's going to become quite clear that it's no longer just about Black Lives Matter, and it's no longer just about police brutality. Right. Now it becomes something a bit more political and more sinister. And and what's funny is that, and I did this, you can go on Google and do a search and say, I'm going to search for what happens if Trump doesn't concede, or potential civil unrest around November elections. And you will just get hundreds and hundreds of hits of all of these different major media sites, all writing articles and recording interviews specifically about what are we going to do when Trump tries to start a war because he won't give up power. Not a single one of them say, well, what will the left do if the left doesn't get its way? Not a single one of them.
Right.
It blows my mind because all of the evidence that we currently have would seem to suggest that we should be more concerned about left-wing civil unrest than we should about right-wing civil unrest. Right. And they talk and they trot out all the QAnon crap, which it's crap, by the way. They trot out all the deep state stuff. They trot out all of these tropes of, well, the Trump people, the MAGA people, they're in all of these little secret paramilitary groups, and you're going to see these militias all over the country, and they're largely influenced by white supremacy. Point them out, please. Right. I keep on hearing this boogeyman, but then I don't see it. And I don't mean, I saw one guy in one town somewhere with a sign. No. I want to see widespread paramilitary groups threatening civil unrest under a Biden. I want Biden president. I want to see it. You know why? You know why they can't show it to you? Because it doesn't exist. Right. Oh, there's going to be plenty of right-wingers who would boo-hoo and gnash their teeth and all that. What's the phrase that they always say? Vote, hope, and cope. That's what the right-wingers tend to do. But by and large, when they don't get their way, they just go back to screaming. They just go back to listening to Rush and screaming at their TV when Fox News is on. That's all they do. Which, by the way, they can all go to euthanasia.com as well. I want to make that very clear. They can all go to euthanasia.com as far as I'm concerned. But they're just not the ones in the riots and the protests, by and large. Right. They're just not the ones burning down the private property and smashing the car windows. By and large, they're just not. Yeah. So if we're going to be intellectually honest, we have to just simply recognize that it is the political left in this country right now that is more like to actually spread genuine violence and to fan those flames. Mm-hmm. And again, by the way, I love nothing more than ideological self-segregation. I want these groups to say we can't go on living together, because I think then the right answer is secession. I think that they should split off and become different political groups in different nation states. That's what I would love to see happen. I think that would be better than trying to keep an empire together of 320 million people, half of them not liking the other half. But in the system that currently exists, I think if you're being honest with yourself, you have to acknowledge that it is the left that is causing way much more of the violence in the streets. So I'm not afraid of a Trump loss, meaning that right-wing paramilitary groups are going to take to the streets. Right. I would be significantly more concerned about a Trump win and a Biden loss and left-wing groups ramping up the flames. Yeah. I mean, tell me where I'm wrong on this.
I don't think you're wrong.
See, folks, that's why he's the number one producer.
Yeah, I mean, sitting here, just, of all the stuff that we've seen, just over the last year, I mean, I don't see a lot of guys running around, like you said, wearing MAGA hats, smashing windows. I see a lot of, random folks from all different likes and hoods and
Well,
they just.
So what's funny is I actually saw on Twitter right before we started the show, and I didn't have time to like pull it for the show. I didn't really want to. They were talking about this obnoxious. We were talking about people running around in MAGA hats. So there was this obnoxious group of right wingers, and some of them were wearing MAGA hats that ran into a Target in Florida. And none of them were wearing masks. And it was a protest. Like they were running through the aisles of Target yelling at people saying, we're not going to wear masks. Take your masks off, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, but it was in Florida. So it
Well, yeah. So for one, it's in Florida. So they could just get in line with the rest of the crazies. But two, yes, they were being obnoxious. Like they're not winning any political points by running through Target, ruining people's shopping experience.
Exactly.
They're not accomplishing anything.
Right.
But the point being is that while that's retarded, there's a big difference between a group of MAGAs running through the aisles of Target saying, take off your masks are stupid, versus people burning Target down and stealing TVs. They're not running through Target stealing TVs saying, take your masks off.
Exactly.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm not defending one side or the other. I'm just saying this narrative of what will we do if Trump wins? It'll be another 4 years of Nazi Germany, and what if he loses and refuses to concede? You guys, I see that headline everywhere, and I just can't believe they can write it with a straight face, knowing full well that it is the left that is fanning the flames of hatred.
Yeah.
I call it like I see it. I'm not defending the righties, but the lefties are wrong on this one.
Yep.
I just wanted to have another quiet moment. I'm feeling a little. Might have the Mandela virus. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, let's take another commercial break. We'll be right back. There we go.
Yeah.
So for our last segment today, have you ever read any articles from the old magazine Scientific American?
I used to read that when I was younger because I had more access to it. But yeah, I remember that magazine having some really cool articles and stuff.
Yeah, I've read a number of things from Scientific American over the years. That was always like my go-to thing. If I'm waiting at the barbershop or whatever, I'd go grab the science.
Yeah.
About
what barbershop were you going to? That's like the barbershop of smart guys?
No, it was just
most of the barbershops
it was just
I
Schultz
got,
up
like,
down here on James
stuff.
Campbell. I mean, no one watching the show
impressed.
nationally gets that, but it's just an old time barbershop.
Well, I'm impressed.
Excuse me for enjoying old time Americana, Blake.
Do you wear a suit and a tie when you go get your hair done? I mean,
No.
Just
Jesus, I can't. You've ruined the segment. The segment's over. We should just take a commercial break now and be done with it. It's ruined. Anyway, Scientific American's been around for 175 years, and they have never once endorsed a presidential candidate because they want to keep the focus on the content and not make themselves a political magazine, which I respect. I have complete respect for that. Until now. Go ahead and pull it up. Scientific American endorses Joe Biden. Scientific American backs Biden with first presidential endorsement in 175 years.
Well, you can burn that magazine.
Oldest continuously published U.S. magazine offered its first presidential endorsement on Tuesday, backing Democratic nominee Joe Biden. Quote, Scientific American has never endorsed a presidential candidate in its 175-year history. This year, we are compelled to do so.
Why?
We do not do this lightly, reads a letter from the editors in the magazine's October issue. that editorial criticizes President Trump's, quote, dishonest and inept response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Here we go.
Here we go.
Highlighting the over 190,000 Americans who have died from the coronavirus. So we've already talked about that. That's not true.
Right.
The pandemic would strain any nation and system, but Trump's rejection of evidence and public health measures has been catastrophic in the U.S. He was warned many times in January and February about the onrushing disease, yet he did not develop a national strategy to provide protective equipment, coronavirus testing, or clear health guidelines, Scientific American says. Take a quick break right there. So the individual states and their governors have been by and large the ones determining for their own state how to handle said crisis. Which, by the way, that is the federalist, that is the constitutional approach.
Right.
The Constitution doesn't say, and oh, by the way, the president can rule by executive decree in case people are getting sick with the flu.
Right.
Doesn't say that. No. Therefore, it remains to the states respectively. And yes, there have been some governors that have done a better job than others. I think it's safe to say. We've talked about Kristi Noem on this program, the governor of South Dakota, that is welcoming people. Come on in. We're open for business. And numbers have been good. Yeah. Versus states like New York, where Andrew Cuomo literally marched a bunch of elderly people to their deaths. He should be in jail.
Yep.
So you want to talk about being anti-science, Scientific American. So, but in that case, that's not necessarily anti-science. That's more they're blaming Trump for, in this particular instance, actually respecting the Constitution and the federal separation of power. Imagine that.
Oh, wow.
Trump has regularly defended his response to the crisis, particularly citing his decision to ban travel from China, the origin country of the novel coronavirus, back in early February. The magazine was also sharply critical of Trump's proposed budget cuts for agencies, including the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Institutes of Health, as well as the handling of the environment. So again, this is a political statement, not a scientific statement.
Exactly.
The CDC shouldn't exist. I'm all for defunding it. It should be defunded to zero.
Yeah.
Abolish it. It's garbage. National Institutes of Health. Why do we have a National Institute of Health? Why do we believe that the government stealing money from the taxpayer and then funding a government-run program or institution is somehow going to lead mankind through issues such as the coronavirus, whereas the private sector cannot?
Right.
It's just on its face ridiculous. Quote, in his ongoing denial of reality, Trump has hobbled U.S. preparations for climate change. Uh-oh, now we're getting to the real things. For preparations for climate change, falsely claiming that it does not exist and pulling out of international agreements to mitigate it. So funny how it's all about his response to COVID. But oh, by the way, how about climate change?
Yeah.
You people are clowns.
Well, Scientific American has always had, a chip on its shoulder about, climate change and climate change.
Well, and I don't have any particular quotes from Trump in front of me. But the thing about even framing the conversation around the phrase climate change is really disingenuous.
Yeah.
Because the climate changes.
Yeah.
So it's technically correct to say that climate change is real because the climate does change.
It does change.
The conversation is not whether or not climate can and will change.
Right.
The conversation is that genuinely dangerous for human life? Is it always a net negative?
Right.
Is it something that we have the ability to prevent at all if it is something that is a net negative? And C, what is the realistic economic answer? The realistic political economic answer. Yeah. If it were possible for us to prevent climate change as they define it, but that means we have to all go back to living like cavemen, then what happens is in a very short period of time, you see millions and millions and millions of people starve to death.
And
that's what happens.
Yep.
So it's not about whether or not we're arguing that climate change is real, however you define the term. Uh-huh. The argument is that, but if you want to live in this beautiful world that we live in with all the wonders of technology and society that we've come to enjoy, they would all go away. Right. If these people had their way, it's the same thing as the COVID people saying, well, we're not going to reopen until we have a vaccine and there's no cases. That's so ridiculous on its face to say if we have a single positive case, everyone lock yourselves in your homes and put on your masks and we're not going to do anything until we have a vaccine. Well, what if we don't?
Yeah.
What if we don't have a vaccine this year?
Right.
What if we don't have a vaccine next year? What if we don't have a vaccine in the 2020s? Are you just all going to starve and die?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
How long are you going to wait it out, man?
Last quote. Quote, Joe Biden, in contrast, comes prepared with plans to control COVID-19, improve health care, reduce carbon emissions, and restore the role of legitimate science in policymaking. He solicits expertise and has turned that knowledge into solid policy proposals. I love that phrase, the role of legitimate science in policymaking. Because, I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of articles and a lot of videos from licensed and diplomaed PhDs and epidemiologists, doctors and scientists who have said things that don't go along with the mainstream narrative on COVID-19 coverage. And you know what? Scientific American, which is supposed to be talking about legitimate science, is supposed to be talking about the rigorous debate in scientific community about these types of issues. I don't see them going out of their way to defend those folks. In fact, those folks are the ones having their videos deleted by YouTube. They're getting themselves deplatformed. They're seeing places like PayPal and Patreon refuse them funding. You can't start a GoFundMe for them. They'll take it down. Google won't link to their hits, to their results. Their web providers take down their websites. All their content gets erased. It goes down the memory hole. Imagine that. The point being I'm trying to make here, folks, is that the scientific community, they're just human beings. And human beings can be compromised. People can be bought. In the same way that a senator can be bought and he can support something because a special interest wants to support it and not because it's legal or constitutional or even just objectively the right or wrong thing to do or even that it actually achieves the aims that it purports. No, he does it because he's a bought and paid for POS that's getting his pockets lined by special interests. The scientific community is not somehow magically immune to this concept. Doctors and scientists can be offered grants and funding for their departments or just straight up a cash kickback to their own wallet to write this kind of tripe. So I'm blown away, first of all, that an institution like Scientific American can take 175 years of goodwill and just throw it into the trash by endorsing a POS like Joe Biden. It just blows. I can't believe it. I just think to myself, like you and I could sit here right now and we could say, what would it take for us to just flip the script on our whole program and it just becomes Ben Shapiro. It just becomes bootlicking statish trash where all we ever do is talk about how Trump's trying to save America and keep it great. Like, what would it take for us?
A lot of money.
It'd take a lot of money, but I got to tell you, I got to be honest with you. I think I would take their money and I would make them an episode and then I'd probably quit. And it probably would be the most smart-ass thing you ever saw in your life.
Darn right.
But they're specifically endorsing Joe Biden. It's one thing to denounce, like, it wasn't good enough that they say, we don't agree with Trump's policies on X, Y, and Z, and we're going to back up our claims with this
data,
this counter data.
Yeah.
That wasn't enough.
No.
They specifically endorsed Joe Biden but why?
Yeah.
Why are they endorsing Joe Biden? Because he parrots the narrative they support, and because he's going to come in and steal a bunch of money to fund the institutions they personally like.
Yep.
How does that make them any different or any better than any other special interest? It doesn't.
That's right.
Such a shame.
Yeah.
It really is. I'm not being facetious. It's such a shame to see that.
It's just everything's compromised nowadays. Everything
sucks.
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm mad on the internet right now.
Well, isn't that rare?
Isn't that rare? Here, this is me on the internet. That's how I do it. All right, we're going to take our last commercial break. We'll be right back. Like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Alan Mosley TV. You can follow us on Twitter. It's twitter.com/Alan Mosley TV. And you can subscribe to our whole library at youtube.com/Alan Mosley TV. So there's one last thing I wanted to show everybody before we went away. It's a quick little update on Breonna Taylor. Go ahead and pull up that right there.
Okay.
So Louisville settles Breonna Taylor wrongful death lawsuit for $12 million. So the family of Breonna Taylor, who I think it was back in April that they had filed a suit against the city of Louisville in the murder. Let's get the right words. Breonna Taylor was murdered by the Louisville PD. And Louisville has settled the suit for $12 million. You know what's so interesting to me about this?
What?
Is that, so Louisville has settled the suit. The mayor went up in front of cameras and stood in front of a microphone and said, "We're settling the suit. We're very sorry. This is a tragedy. Breonna Taylor was murdered. We're going to work on change within Louisville. We're going to work on change." I think they already have banned no-knock raids there, specifically in Louisville. But we're going to work with the police departments to do this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Haven't arrested her killers yet, though.
No.
It's just, and I know I'm not. This isn't a legal conversation. We don't have Suzanne here to talk about the ins and outs. But the point being, you see the point I'm making is that. So the city is settling the suit, which means they're, and I'm sure in the settlement it's that they don't expressly, assume wrongdoing or responsibility or whatever. But the point being is we all know they are.
Yeah.
We all know that they're they're giving Breonna Taylor's family $12 million because they're acknowledging guilt, that they were in the wrong and that she was murdered.
Yeah.
So if they're settling the suit, if they're giving her family $12 million, if the mayor of Louisville is going up in front of a microphone live on TV and saying, "We're so sorry, this shouldn't have happened, blah, blah, blah," then I don't see how you can do any of that without the very next thing being, therefore, let's go pick up those cops and put them under arrest.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened
Absolutely.
yet. As of the time of this recording, that hasn't happened yet. I love the memes that people make that always are just some random nondescript meme and then it ends with, and so today is a lovely day to arrest Breonna Taylor's killers.
Yep.
And it still is.
Not gonna happen.
They actually had in the article here that this is the largest settlement that Louisville taxpayers, of course, are going to be on the hook for. The largest settlement before this was to a man named Edwin Chandler, who had been wrongfully imprisoned for more than 9 years, and he had received $8.5 million back in 2012. Wow. You remember when we were talking about Kamala Harris and that they had wrongfully imprisoned people, and then she was fighting to A, keep them in jail even though they were wrongfully imprisoned, and B, deny them any benefits.
Right.
So I just wanted to bring. So if Kamala were around, she would be like, "Screw Edwin Chandler, he can burn in hell." She'd probably say the same thing about Breonna Taylor's family. That's what's funny about it, is that these people try to get on their moral high horse and support the protests and all this, but in reality, their actual actions are the opposite of their words. So, I'm glad this happened. I'm glad that I'm glad in the sense that the family gets a settlement. I'm mad in the sense of course, all this means is that the Louisville taxpayer will have to pay it.
Yeah.
Because as we have said on this very program, I would love for that $12 million to come out of the police pensions. Yeah. That's where I think that it should come out of. Yeah. I think you should get rid of qualified immunity and then go after those officers and get them for every dime they're worth. That's the ones who actually murdered her. But above all of that, it's not over until they arrest the killers. Yep. Period. Full stop.
That's it.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of It's Too Late, and we will see you next week.